did. Lincoln increased the power of the government, or at least, let's say, during the Civil War. I don't know that Lincoln single-handedly did it. He certainly increased the power of the presidency. But during the Civil War, the government got bigger. There's no doubt about it. The government became more powerful. But I have to say that compared to today, it was still very, very, very small. If you index, let's say, the power of and size of the United States federal government, let's say it's 100 today. Let's just put a number on it. I would say the Civil War moved it up from about a 15 to about a 20 or 25. The government in 1865 was still just a tiny fraction of what it is today. And some people would say, well, that's bad. Some would say good. That's not my point. My point is just to say that, yes, it did increase the size of the government and the power of the government. But it was just, in that regard, I don't know that it was a watershed moment so much, because we see the size and the power of government even contracts a little bit after the Civil War. So I think the fundamental, the keyness, if you will, or the importance of the Civil War is not so much in what happened to government. But I think it's, as I mentioned, the things that it did settle about the nature of the country. And I would also add, it obviously settled, even though, as we've said many times before, this wasn't the purpose at the beginning, but it did settle the key question that had dogged the American Republic since its beginning, and that was the slavery question. Now, did it solve all the problems of African Americans? Well, certainly not, and not even close. It fell very short of making their lives equal and equally enjoyable to those of white Americans. But it did at least ensure that we're not going to be a nation where we have chattel slavery, where one person can own another person and profit from that person's labor and grow wealthy, fabulously wealthy, while these other people are forced to live these miserable lives. So that's it. It changed the slavery question, and it changed the nature of the government to some degree, but it changed the nature of the nation.
Great way to cap it off. It determined what kind of nation we would be. Well, when I usually close off an episode, I like to point people to where they can go to follow up the discussion, because you can talk about the Civil War absolutely endlessly. So, James, you host the wonderful Facebook group, American History Fanatics, which is where I first came across you. So if people want to continue the Civil War debate and discussion ad infinitum, how do they find your group?
Just go into Facebook and search for American History Fanatics, and you'll find us. Now, I must warn everybody, it's a very friendly group. It's a fun group, and we keep it that way. We do not discuss politics. And so let's not go in there bringing up Confederate flags or Confederate statues or things like that, because it'll get ugly fast. And we talk about, it's not really so much a debate group as it is discussion and friendly banter back and forth. There's a playful atmosphere to the group. We talk about not just politics and battles and wars. We also talk about music history, and we talk about culture and other things like that. But it's a very fun group. So, yeah, look us up and join the group. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for staying with us through this series. I'm Scott Rank.
I'm James Early.
Thank you for joining us. All right, well, that was the episode for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. First of all, I'd like to thank the Knowlton's Rangers, and especially our spy masters, Baron Fraser, Carl from Norway, Chris from Maine, Moondoggy from Ohio, and Rick Knowlton, and I'll explain what that means in a second. If you want to support the show and help me keep producing this content, there are 4 easy ways for you to do it. 1, subscribe to the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you want to do that, you can go to historyunpluggedpodcast.com, and there you'll find instructions. 2, join our Facebook group, which you can find if you just search for History Unplugged. And please like and share posts that I put up about new episodes. 3, submit a question to me so that I can answer it on air. You can email me at info@historyonthenet.com or leave a voicemail. And again, go to historyunpluggedpodcast.com and you'll find instructions. Lastly, and I think this one is the best, is to become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. The Knowlton's Rangers were an elite reconnaissance and espionage detachment of the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, but it's also the name of the History Unplugged membership program. Learn how to join by going to patreon.com/unplugged. So here's what you get if you become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. If you join at the level of Scout, you can get early access to new podcast episodes, along with enjoying absolutely every single episode of the History Unplugged podcast ad-free. All 270 and counting episodes. If you join at the level of Intelligence Officer, you can also get access to premium episodes, like a multi-part series on the life of Audie Murphy, the most decorated combat soldier in World War II, or the 10-part series Ottoman Lives, a series that looks at the cast of characters that made up the Ottoman Empire, such as the Sultan, the eunuch, the harem servant girl, and the soldier. And finally, if you join at the level of Spy Master, you get all the same stuff as the scouts and intelligence officers, but you also get a shout-out to you and or your business at the end of each episode, a 3-pack of hardcover history books, plus you will be put at the very front of the line for me to answer your question about history, and I can guarantee I will dedicate an episode that's about an hour long or so to your question. Sign up at patreon.com/unplugged. Again, that's patreon.com/unplugged. Anyway, those are the ways you can help out the show. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening to the History Unplugged podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get your daily dose of all things history related, from ancient Greece to the Cold War. We'll see you next time at the History Unplugged podcast.